Alright. Hello everybody.
That's how you do it.
Cool. So everybody, welcome. I see all familiar faces. So you guys know about Manja, what goes on here, all the kind of cool stuff that happens on the stage, behind the stage, the gallery space. It's pretty sweet. So tonight we have Nick Dunn, aka DJ Buckwild. Yeah, so Nick is going to tell us a little bit about his experience with DJing. He's going to tell us a little bit about scratching, DMC, hip-hop culture, and then I think he's going to teach one of you how to scratch tonight. Yeah. So once more, give it up for Nick Dunn, please.
1, 2. How's it going? Okay, cool. Yeah, so, whoa, my voice is really loud. It's putting me off a little bit. Okay, so, my name is Nick, but I've got loads of other different names. And it's just one of those things that is kind of, you know, if you're going to be a DJ, you can't just call yourself Nick, you know, it just doesn't work. So you come up with ridiculous names, Trick Daddy, Buckwild, Gizmo the House Mouse, you know, take your pick, whatever you want, that's kind of the way it goes. So yeah, how about that sound, everybody? Fuck, I thought one of those bad in English. Jesus. Anyway, yeah, so hopefully that's all done and dusted, no pun intended. And yeah, so we're going to get into the main sort of anatomy of scratching. How does it all work? What's the basics? You know, how many people know how to scratch here already, you know? Anyone? 1, 2, okay, that's perfect, right? So you have no idea what the hell's going on up here when people are moving their hands and all this kind of stuff, right?
It's just noises.
It's just noises. It's just magic. it's not quite, yeah? It's to do with stickers. So yeah, one of the basic principles of it is these stickers on the records, right? So they work like a clock face, you know, so 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you know, you get the idea. So, you know, as you're kind of scratching along, you can see what you're doing with it, you know what I mean? You don't have to listen in the headphones as to what's happening with the scratch. You're just kind of like looking and you're like, right, okay, it's at 12 o'clock, so I know I'm doing that. You don't actually think that when you're scratching. You're not thinking, yeah, it's 12 o'clock, at 10 past 12. You're just naturally doing that because that's how the stickers work, right? So, R's and freshes. You know, one of the other things is where do you get the noises from in order to scratch? So not like just on random, well, they are on random records, but they're not on just normal records, if you like. So you'll have all these kind of sample records which have got just a whole collection of noises. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That make no real sense at all, unless you're actually, you know, grabbing them and start doing something with them. So, yeah, for example, so ordinarily, you know, you're not just going to stick that on at home and listen to it, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's nice. it's useful, it does something, you know what I mean? It's the R's and the freshes, as they're called. So yeah, so you got the way that stickers work, the noises, then the crossfader goes from one side to the other, cuts out that side, and then you can sort of tap away at it. So what we're going to do is try it with somebody who's never scratched before. So is anyone brave enough to come up here and spend a couple of minutes trying to learn how to scratch? Anybody? You, sir. Come on up. Round of applause. Excellent. What's your name? Kojak. Well, like the guy on TV? Yeah. Perfect. Well, you've already got a DJ name. Okay, cool. All right. Well, yeah, so I'm going to explain some of the principles to you over this microphone, but you have to kind of listen to me as well. Yeah, that's fine. So, okay. Right. Okay, so we've got a noise down here. It's really hard to do this without... Maybe I'll just secretly whisper it to you and then you can just start doing it. One second. Okay, so the way I've been teaching scratching for years, and there's a real tried and tested way of getting somebody scratching really, really quickly, and it's this way. You teach them what to do on the left hand first, while I do the right hand, and then you switch over. Okay, so you carry on doing that for a second, and this will all start to make sense. Okay, that was pretty good scratching. Fuck, I'm sure you've never done that before. Yeah, okay, so, you know, the principle there is that you kind of just, you know, do whatever. And really, you can be doing anything you want with this hand on the record, and as long as you've got the noise on there, and you're tapping at the right speed, it's going to sound like a scratch, okay? Now, the crossfader is either on or off, yeah? And you're holding your thumb against it, and trying to push against. Yeah, so the default is off. And you tick, 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 tick. So you're kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, right hand crossfader. I'll do the left hand while you try and scratch, yeah? See how you go. Perfect, that was amazing, okay. Fantastic. Wait, we're not finished yet. Now we need to do with both, okay? So remember, 6 o'clock, back and forth, and then tap, tap, tap. Okay, see how it goes. Yeah, you know, it's like doing, however that works. So slow with this hand, quick with that hand, yeah? Yeah, got it. Right, let's try things with a beat as well, yeah? I haven't just like brought someone down who knows what he's doing just to pretend that I know what's going on there. That was fucking amazing, dude. Really, really cool. Wait, I've got a present for you. For being such a good DJ, you get your own Serato control vinyl with some stickers inside as well. Oh yeah, nice one, dude. Yeah, I think you're already done. There's fuck all else I can teach you, man. That was amazing. Okay, so you know, one of the things about it's cool to just kind of go willy-nilly, but there's a technique called question and answer in scratching. So you're trying to make this kind of conversational style. So you ask a question and then you answer it, sort of thing. So I'll try and show you what I mean. So this is a question. And this is an answer. So it's kind of two people having a conversation all the time. And it works really well when you've got two DJs scratching at the same time, but I'll show you how it comes together. So you end up with this conversational style that's like sort of like poetry, like really, really rudimentary sort of, it's simple poetry. Okay, one sec. Yeah, so you see what I mean? You start getting these patterns going on and these rhythms. So, you know, a lot of the time, you'll hear people who are really good at scratching, they give different names to scratches. So what Kojak was doing there was called transforming, right? So it's like ah da 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 da, and then you get things like you know, flaring, which is I'll just actually show you one second. So you're pushing back against it and making a gap in it, and it makes it roll and sound like quick and everything. And then you have stuff like chirps as well. Bit of a strange one, but you know. So what you do eventually is you put together these different combos of like, you know, this is a chirp flare or this is a whatever. But you know, the way that you was doing it was perfect. It's just natural, kind of like, you know, going along with the rhythm. But once people get more into it, certainly with things like the DMC competition and all that lot, like they're really sort of geeky about their scratching and everything, and so everything's got a name. Okay, so beat juggling. Can we get back to the? He's on it. It's good. So again, using the sticker principle, yeah, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock. You got 2 copies of the same beat, and you want to kind of repeat them over and over and over, and it's like the simple beginnings of juggling the beats kind of thing. Let me find a track that I could sort of demonstrate this with. Just talk amongst yourselves for a second. Okay, what I'm going to talk about soon is the pros and cons of using the computer. One of them is trying to remember the name of the tunes that you're trying to find. But I'll go more into that in a sec. How do you spell rhyme? R-H-Y, that's it, isn't it?
What you have there are records that actually connected to
Yeah, exactly. So I've basically got like a version of iTunes here that I can then project onto these.
So the actual records you have there are
these are just blank.
digital files.
Yeah, they sound like this when they haven't got any music on them. So what it's doing is this is the way Serato works. I might save that for a second. Let me go through beat juggling first, and then I'll explain what's going on. Okay, I still can't find what I'm looking for. Right, yeah. Okay, so certainly with hip hop, there's this kind of like boom boom chik, you know, in the first sort of phrase of any beat. So if you're beat juggling, you can kind of grab different parts of that and start making up your own stuff with it and all this kind of stuff. So let me just make sure these are in the right place. Can you guys see what I'm doing on the computer? Yeah, okay. I'm not just checking my emails, I'm just... Okay, so we've got the stickers at 12 o'clock. The beat will just be like dum dum chick, and then you'll see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start off with like one side, play it round, go to the other side, play that round. In the meantime, I'm spinning that back and then going again. So allow me to demonstrate. juggling, you know what I mean? You're sort of juggling between the two. And what you're trying to do is spend as little time as possible thinking about the one that's actually playing and just concentrating on the one that you're doing. It's a head fuck, to be honest. It's like this kind of sonic puzzle that you've got going on, which without the beat going, you know, you don't have those kind of elements. This is why hip hop's so good for beat juggling, because it has that kind of rudimentary stuff. Okay, so let's flip back to the presentation. Everyone enjoyed the PowerPoint presentation? It's a good format, isn't it? Gee, I was fucking bored the other night. I thought, you know what, something, I'll just put together a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not trying to close a sale or anything, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to explain it to you. Okay, so vinyl versus Serato. And this is a big one because a few years ago, people started using the laptop and these control records, which are just like blank noises. And they've got their advantages, but they've also got their disadvantages as well. Especially for me, sort of personally, from going through like 15, 16 years of just using records and looking through your crate and like digging stuff out and all this kind of stuff. You really lose that sort of like crate digging thing. No one ever goes record shopping anymore. You just kind of get a hard drive given to you with like hip hop on it, and you say, yeah, great, yeah, cool. So yeah. In the old days, we'd use stickers a lot. Certainly in the DMC competition, because you've got to be really, really quick to get to the right point on the record, and without using headphones, because you've only got a certain amount of time to do it. So I'll show you what things used to be like, and then I'll explain what's good about Serato after that. So yeah. So whenever you see me using the blue ones, that's the computer. If not, that's normal vinyl. Technically these are vinyl. I'm not totally cheating. They have got grooves on them. They do work exactly the same. But yeah. Before we had computers, we used to do this. So yeah. And also, I haven't done this routine for like 7 years or something. But I had a go at it the other day, and it seemed to work okay. So we'll see how it goes. 1 second. So I should explain the little stickers here. I'm trying to get to the exact right groove, the place that I want to be. And then the ones in the middle are just using it the same as the clock face. Yeah? Everyone's still with me? Is this interesting? It's fucking boring as shit out here. we'll stop it there. Alright, cool. So, a couple of things in that is, you know, you'd have to go from one place in the record to the next using these stickers, and then it ruins the record because you can't play the rest of it, and, you know, there's certain limitations with the vinyl method. Apart from the fact that if you wanted to do beat juggling, you had to buy 2 copies of the same one, and so it cost you twice as much. Whereas nowadays, you can just select the track on the left-hand side, copy it across. You know, you can import your own beats. So if you're making stuff in Logic or whatever, and you want to play it out at a club, you literally just whack it into there, and you can put it on vinyl. Whereas years ago, you'd have to like get a dub plate done, and it cost you like, you know, loads of money, and then they might sound shit. You can play them a couple of times. So yeah, so big pros and cons with the 2 of them. And yeah, it took me a long time to get used to this, because I didn't really trust it at first. I thought there was something was going to go wrong, and like, you know, I'd take records with me as well, just in case it sort of like tits up. But now I know it's quite a stable platform, and it's good. So yeah, so whatever your opinions on whether vinyl sounds great, or, you know, it should be, you know, kept as a format, there is massive uses for the Serato side of things, because it just opens up a whole new load of things that you can do. Apart from anything else, like you can have, you know, certain effects on things and trigger points, and so. You know, you just wouldn't be able to do that with normal vinyl at all. So yeah, that was vinyl versus Serato. So, I was going to talk about the what the DMC competition is. So for about 10 years I was entering it every year as, you know, solo and with teams and things like that. So what would happen, I'll explain how I got into it in the first place. So I was DJing normally for about 5 years, quite happily plodding along and mixing and doing all that stuff. And then somebody got me like a video of all the world champions from like the 80s and 90s and all this stuff. And I was like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like, you know, they're all over the shop and they're doing all this and doing all these tricks and everything. And then, you know, I found out that, you know, it's a world championships and anybody can enter it. Like, Kojak, you know, you can enter the DMC World Championships next year if you wanted to, right? Because it comes in this format of like, you know, everybody turns up on the day and you get 2 minutes in front of, it's a bit like a room like this, and all the other DJs are sat in the room and there's some judges there, and you all come up and do your 2-minute routine, and they pick the top 8, and then they go through to the final in the night time when there's a room full of 1,000 people, and, you know. So it's a bit like sort of the Olympics of DJing. Like every country has its own national championships. Each national champion goes through to the world final in London, and all this kind of stuff. The whole point about it is it's fucking impossible. It's really, really difficult competition. Right? Like, you know, you don't even get like money at the end of it or something. Do you know what I mean? You just sort of spend your entire life like practicing every day for like 5 hours or something in order to do this 6-minute set. And by the time you get there, you're like shitting yourself. And your hands are shaking, and there's like, you know, 1,000 people staring at you and all this kind of stuff, and you're sweating and all this stuff. So it's so difficult that, you know, you just have to like practice. And, you know, who's got 6 hours a day to practice DJing, do you know what I mean? Well, I don't know, some people might. But unless it's your, you know, unless it's your profession or something, or you're 15 years old, then setting aside hours and hours a day to practice is like a real balling.
Now I'm curious what you're gonna do. What if you are at the DMC Championship now and you have 2 minutes?
Well, the thing is, I stopped doing it in 2007. So, you know, what you saw with that was kind of a bit of a DMC 2-minute kind of a routine. There's not a lot you can do in 2 minutes, right? I'll show you one thing that's a potential, but
you don't use Seratos.
well, I didn't used to, but I stopped doing it in 2007. But I would do now. Yeah, I think so. So it's a shame that the reason I've got this crazed picture up. Oops, sorry. Is because he did a routine in 1998, which is like the hands down greatest DMC routine ever, and it would have been nice to show the YouTube video of it and stuff like that, but I'll save that for another time. But it does all the, ticks all the boxes. He's beat juggling, he's using noises, he's spinning around on his back, everything's perfect. And so, you know, the whole point is it's a long process of months of practice just to DJ for 6 minutes, you know what I mean? If anyone normally DJed for 6 minutes, they would have put on like 3 tunes and, you know, swung a tower on their head or something like that. But you can go through like 15, 16 records in a 6-minute routine and you just sort of like flying through it. So, okay, so theoretically, does anyone want to time me for 2 minutes to see if I can get this routine down? Then I'll shout at once, it's fine. Yeah, okay, theoretical 2-minute routine for the DMC competition. One sec. I'll probably have a bit of an intro as well. Here's one I prepared earlier, so it's a good chance to use it.
Please allow me to introduce myself. Allow me to introduce myself.
DJ.
This is Jam High. Fellas, I'm ready to get up and do my thing. I want to get into it, man, you know. Like a sex machine, man. Moving, doing it, you know. Can I count it off? 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then I'll turn around and diss the guy and, you know, call his mum a bitch and all this kind of shit. So there's this competitive side to it as well, where you're trying to battle with each other. So you've got to be really good as well as kind of dissing everyone and all this kind of stuff, which I've never been very good at. So yeah, so you know, all this encompass sort of culture of scratching and you know, DJs. You know, you're always told when you're younger, like, don't touch the turntable, you're going to ruin the needle, and like, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it just goes to show what happens when you just ignore that, and you end up coming up with all these tricks and techniques, and how to use stickers and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, the definitions, I mean, this is prime PowerPoint presentation right here, look at that. The definition of a turntable is, you know, the famous one is this one: the one who uses the turntable in the spirit of a musical instrument. Yeah, from Babu. So that's an interesting one, because normal DJs, everyone's like, yeah, you're just playing other people's records, you know what I mean? What's so great about that? But if you're doing all that stuff and, you know, you're scratching and doing everything else, it is manipulating it into something else. You know, Kojak over there was he was musical, wasn't he? When he was scratching, he was just like, you know, he was in the groove with it. So yeah, so it's basically taking something that was an original format and then being able to manipulate it and do lots of different stuff with it. So one of the points of that is that you could drum with a turntable, right? So let's have a look. Whoop. It's really difficult finding a rhythm. What?
You should stay old school.
Huh?
You should stay old school and give up the laptop thing.
Stay old school.
Yeah.
I was, back in the day. This is the thing, my brain doesn't function in like, right, what's the name of this tune? Or it's always like, what colour was the record sleeve? Or like, you know, this one has a certain thing on it. I'll find a different thing. Feel free to read the rest of the PowerPoint slide. I know it's not there anymore. Okay, drums, yeah. Okay, so drumming with the turntables. Okay, so not terribly in time, but you'll see the sort of the thing with that. You know, if you were in a band, you can have someone else playing bass along to that. You know, you could scratch with a drummer. You could do all sorts of things which make it into this like musical instrument kind of thing. Okay, so yeah, one of the presentation. So Scratch the movie came out a few years ago. You know, part of your homework from this session would be go away and watch that. There'll be a test afterwards. Right. So yeah. Again, it started coming into the mainstream with this sort of documentary about where it came from and all this kind of stuff. And the interesting story about that is that scratching was invented by an 11-year-old. You know, when there was, his mum was trying to turn the music down, and he was like listening to her, and he was moving this back and forth like that, and thought, right, I'll try and make that into something. So, you know, 11-year-old invented it. Amazing. So, the other thing about the sort of hip-hop culture and everything is that, especially with these guys here in Bahrain, with what they're doing at the moment with their events and promotion and stuff, is that there's a lot of participation involved. So years ago I used to promote a hip-hop night, which is, you know, was bringing over all these guys from America, you know, Cash Money, Kool Herc, who invented hip-hop, you know, the Souls of Mischief, all these other people and stuff like that. And you would get a taste of what was going on over there, over in your own country. So, you know, we would do our own sort of hip-hop events, you know, in our own sort of way. The same you guys are doing your own events in your own way. And, you know, hip-hop's a very all-inclusive culture. This is why it spread so quickly, is that everything was in place. You know, you could be a graffiti artist, or you could DJ, or you could be an MC, or a breakdancer, or a beatboxer, whatever. And you know, if you did do one of them, you did one of the others. So again, it was this kind of all-encompassing thing. I mean, you know, let's face it, Biggie was never going to be a breaker, right? But he's a fucking good rapper, and nor should he have to breakdance. You know, that wasn't his skill. So yeah, hip-hop coming from America. I mean, what I mean by this is America with a capital A. Do you know what I mean? The sort of kind of corporate side of it. It did come from America, but it came from, you know, it came out of the projects of New York, you know, that were forgotten and left to rot. From that environment, a jewel emerged from the parties that they had and the music that they were playing in the 1970s. You know, when they were doing hip-hop gigs, there was no hip-hop, they were just playing James Brown tunes and, you know, lots of people getting together and all this kind of thing. You know, what about raves, jungle and dubstep? Same sort of thing. A real sort of downtime in economy sort of sparks off this kind of revolutionary thing. You know, the police in England, they didn't know what to do in the 1980s when people were just like dancing in fields. They were just like, I don't know, are we meant to be arresting these guys? Is there anything actually wrong with it? Like, until they realised that everybody was like dealing drugs and taking drugs, then they suddenly had something to latch onto. Oh, right, cool, then we can make that illegal. And they tried to. So yeah, so sampling and things like the Amen break. And everybody know what the Amen break is, kind of thing? You know, some sort of clue, right? So yeah, so, I mean, that's a really interesting example of something coming from nothing, if you like. So, let's have a little listen to the sort of original Amen Brother version. So, you know, it's this sort of just really kind of random and quite rare funk record. But you can hear the drums immediately, you're like, yeah, fuck, I recognise that. And then right in the middle of it, it just suddenly drops into kind of... And then, you know, you start getting people just sampling that one thing and then make an entire genre of music out of like 9 seconds on a record or something like that. So yeah, is it quite off-putting that there's just a pair of legs hanging down from the projection screen? It's kind of disembodied. What are you doing behind there? Okay, PowerPoint? Anyone? Who's the guy with the thing? Hey, wicked. So my sort of niche is that I started scratching with bands, with like, you know, all sorts of bands. I was in so many fucking bands, I can't even remember how many bands I've been in, where I would just be scratching along with them playing their music, right? So one of those bands was like this rockabilly band called Johnny Quality. And we sort of practiced for about a year, and then our third gig that we did, like Fatboy Slim came to the gig, unbeknownst to us. So we were doing our normal thing, and then, you know, he came up to us afterwards really excited and decided that he wanted us to go on like tour with him, and he was going to like produce the album and all this sort of stuff. So we had this kind of crazy 6-month period where we toured the UK with Fatboy Slim as his kind of warm-up act. But he came and played bass with us for a couple of songs, and then he would go and DJ with the crowd and all this kind of thing, and it was this quite surreal experience for an unsigned band. So I got to go along with the sort of, I got to go along with it because I was the fucking scratch DJ in the band, you know what I mean? So they couldn't get rid of me. And yeah, so we ended up doing all this kind of like rock and roll stuff. So, you know, like I said, we were a rock band. You know, there's my mate Sean playing his guitar on Norm's head at some gig somewhere or other. And we had this kind of like band mentality, but we were being taken along by this kind of guy that, he was quite famous at that point. Unfortunately, the album tour that we did, the Palookaville one, it didn't sell very well, but we had a lot of fun. You know, you end up in situations that you just would never have got, and opportunities that you would never have got if you hadn't have just gone and practiced with your mates and been in a band or whatever. So here we are in a green room on a TV show in England with Gwen Stefani, Piers Brosnan, and Peter Kay. It was just a really, really bizarre Monday afternoon, that was. And you know, and then we ended up going to America, and we went on a show called the Conan O'Brien Show, which was like massive over there at the time, and all this kind of thing. You know, and eventually it became apparent that it wasn't a very good idea of Norm's. You know, he was drinking a lot, you know, there was a lot of going on at the time. So, you know, we sort of got dropped. This is back in 2003, it was ages and ages ago. So yeah, so had this like whirlwind rock and roll thing because I was a turntablist and because I was scratching and all this kind of stuff. So what I'm trying to get across to you is, you know, you really don't know where you're going to get with stuff when you start a project. Do you know what I mean? You know, the right person could be at your band's gig, the right person might hear the CD, whatever, and you end up on this kind of whirlwind tour. So, we got dropped like a rock. And then it was kind of like, fuck, you know, the party's over, you know, now what? So, yeah, I did another project with a friend of mine who was a classically trained violinist who was a rapper as well. And we'd seen this video online of these two guys in America where one of them was playing violin and the other guy was sort of doing beats, and we were like, yeah, okay, cool, we'll do our own version of that. So we ended up touring for like 4 years with this digital project. And yeah, we had a minimal amount of success, I would say. I mean, one of the interesting things about this is that we got corporate sponsorship from 2 different companies. So the first one was Eastpak, the guys who make rucksacks, yeah? And the other one was THTC t-shirts, guys who make t-shirts, right? So not only would you get free t-shirts and free bags, which is really useful if you're going to be travelling a lot and doing gigs and everything, but they would also sort gigs out for us. So Eastpak would take a load of breakdancers over to, I don't know, a hip-hop festival in Spain or something. We'd go along with them, we'd do this kind of like 10-minute routine or whatever. So yeah, so in the Johnny Quality days, we were picked up and under the wing of somebody who was famous, whereas in the Fidgetal days, it was more like a corporate sponsor using us a little bit to sort of push the brand, but also it was a really interesting way of getting gigs. Like this, yeah, you know, I mean, this place is Red Bull, right? So, you know, Red Bull are amazing at kind of pushing interesting projects to their foregone conclusions, and you know, basically getting behind people. So I'm going to play you, let's have a look, something that Fidgetal did, and I'll show you how it relates to hip-hop, I suppose.
Why is it got to be so damn hard? So damn hard.
so that was basically what we used to do live, but without Mike being here. Shit. So what it allowed us to do is kind of like put mashups and melodies of any sort of record together. So we would have songs with like 3 different, bits and tracks in them with an a cappella over the top. And if anyone knows a good violinist, then stay close to them because you never know when you might need them, right? So he can pluck away at a certain melody, and then he can layer up a certain bit, and then he can put the bass over the top, and I can be beat juggling in the background. So yeah, that was it. It was a great show, man. You know what I mean? And this is what brought the sort of comp for sponsorship. And yeah, we got to meet Dan Soul as well, which is a real bonus. Yeah, we would do these support gigs. Look how happy I am in this picture, man. Fuck. So yeah, so that's pretty much everything from me. I mean, if anyone's got any burning questions or wants to come and have a go at scratching, then now's the time to say it. Apart from that, thanks to Pete and everybody for inviting me over, because yeah, sandstorm or no sandstorm, it's nice to be here. And yeah, and support what these guys are doing, because they're going to be producing stuff that is going to produce a scene which is your scene over here. In New York it might have been in the South Bronx in the parks, but over here you've got venues at the top of hotels that are just like fucking amazing. Maybe that's where the culture is. Maybe that's where the stuff goes on. You've got these facilities here, which is perfect for stuff. And yeah, so support your local promotions. Thank you very much.
So guys, you give it up once more for Nick Dunn. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, you can catch him tomorrow night at Sky Bar. We're doing a little bit of a hip-hop gig. Kicking off at 4 p.m. and going as late as we can, really. We're going to be hanging around here for a little bit. If anyone has any more questions or just wants to come up and say hey, please do. Thanks again for having us. And thanks again for Metro and Red Bull for putting this awesome place together and giving us a place to, put turntables up on a screen and teach Kojak how to scratch. Thanks again, guys. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Have a nice night.
He was one of the greatest bands in history.